Hello, you're listening to Sam J Has Questions. Thank you for being on Sam J's podcast. Sam J Has Questions. I realize that's a lot of Sam J's in a row, but hey, if you're here, you're enjoy it, and you're about to get a lot more Sam J's in a row. My guest today is Jake Kroeger. He's a comedian and the force behind the Comedy Bureau. Com. Check out the Comedy Bureau if you are a fan of comedy, if you do comedy, if you want to learn a little bit more about the LA comedy scene. Jake Kroeger, gosh, what a guy to sit down and chat with and pick his brain. I've had a lot of conversations with Jake, but this is definitely the longest one I've had, and I had all the questions. I had all the questions because Sam J Has Questions. That's how this works. If you don't get it at this point, then I cannot help you. So today on Sam J Has Questions, my guest Jake Kroeger, we dealt with a lot of topics, all regarding comedy. Spoiler alert. The guy who started the Comedy Bureau talks comedy. Okay, that wasn't a dig. It was meant to be funny. Okay, anyways. So we go through what the Comedy Bureau is, what it does, why he started it. And I want to highlight Jake's go get it attitude. He wouldn't say that. I was trying to get him to claim the Comedy Bureau. Shout out to the Comedy Bureau. This is me shouting out to the Comedy Bureau. Thank you, Comedy Bureau. Without you, I would not be able to do what I do. What is it that I do? I have questions and I do comedy. That's it. There we go. Simple. Book me. Okay, here we go. We talk about expanding the Comedy Bureau, what the future is in 2020 for Jake Kroeger and the Comedy Bureau. We go over the industry and how shows find talent and how Jake just loves appreciating new talent and going to new shows. Another section I really enjoyed in our conversation was coffee shop etiquette. He and myself also spend some times in coffee shop, emailing, doing whatever. And there's an etiquette that we'd like to set a precedent for. So if you go to coffee shops and you don't know the etiquette, well, Jake and I will tell you. It's an interesting podcast in the sense that there's some war stories in there. There's some open mic war stories and advice for open mic comedians, people moving to LA. So if you're new to the LA comedy scene and you want to know how it works, this is the right podcast for you. Thank you for listening, and please enjoy the episode with Jake Kroeger. Hello.
Hey.
That was an internal count off. Jake Kroeger, thank you for coming on Sam J Has Questions. I have some questions for you.
Yeah, I think I might have some answers.
Good. Let's start off. How you feeling? You feeling okay? Are you comfortable? Can I get you anything?
Oh, I'm very comfortable. I already got some water. Thank you very much.
Great.
I'm feeling let's see, world weary.
Interesting. Why?
Just a little world weary. I'm a very, very busy person, and it requires me not sleeping a lot. And
how many hours of sleep you get?
Probably 5 or less.
Okay, that's a good, pretty consistently 5.
Yeah. In fact, if I without an alarm, I'll just get 5. To get more than 5, most of the time I actively have to I have to try to sleep more. It's just how my body's tuned.
Are you tired right now?
I don't think I'm tired right now. No.
Well, you look great. You might be tired and world weary.
World weary. Yeah, that's a more, all-encompassing, I guess, emotional, spiritual sort of term, but yeah.
Well, we can unpack that
sure
a little bit later in the podcast.
Cool.
I don't know if we should start there.
No, let's not. Yeah, we can work our way there. That's all.
Let's ease our way into it. So, a few reasons I have these questions for you. One being, I like to get into people's sort of habits and not necessarily rituals, but just how they continue to be busy but yet still productive. Because I'd imagine, yes, you are busy and you may have a lot of fires that you have to put out or that you deem are necessary, because I know you work for yourself.
Right.
So how do you sort of evaluate what is important and what takes your time first versus this is just this is a thing I have to just do every day to upkeep it? I mean, maybe start with what exactly you do first, and we can go into that.
So I do a thing called the Comedy Bureau. It's a everything you need to know. LA Comedy News site's been around since 2010. Whether you're a fan, performer, person in the industry, like anybody that's like interested in comedy in LA at all, I think is a great central source of information for them to be in the know. And that's like the main thing I do. And then there are a bunch of things that are tangential to that I also do because I do the Comedy Bureau. You know, I get to write about comedy at other places like Vulture, or I get to produce live shows or albums even, or I get to consult for production companies or scout. And I even give a tour through the LA comedy scene through Airbnb. Any sort of like comedy expertise thing I get to sort of get in on. And so that's what I do. And I also do stand up. Some people forget that I do that. I've been doing that for like a decade. Probably because I don't like push to be on shows more, but I feel I like kind of didn't do that for a long time because I didn't feel very confident about my own comedy, but that's different now. So in regards to how I prioritize, that was your question?
Yeah. How do you, I mean, a typical day, like what's determining what gets your attention? Because a list of everything you just said, yeah. I'd imagine it can be overwhelming, and you're the only one sort of structuring yourself as well. So,
right. So the Comedy Bureau kind of like takes precedent over like everything, and specifically the calendars. So there's 2 calendars. One's for kind of shows and the other one's for open mics. And even that is sort of a broad overarching term, because the open mic calendar, while it's mostly stand up, there's, you know, anything that's like an improv jam or a character open mic, or even ones that are like a quote unquote open projector where anybody can just show up with their movie or sketch under a certain running time. They can have those played. Those are all on there. And for shows, that's stand up, sketch, and improv, and podcasts that are recorded live, and puppets and art exhibitions and screenings, and you know, whatever else that I think is funny or important to comedy.
So if it doesn't hit those 2 criterias,
yeah, it's pretty simple.
They're not coming on the Comedy Bureau.
You know, a lot of people, rather than asking me, constantly try to reverse engineer how I make up these listings.
If you could tell them one thing, just look into that camera and tell them what you'd like them to know.
I would like them to know, in regards to how you get listed at the Comedy Bureau, just make something that's like funny, that I think is funny. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I kind of look at what a show is, and generally if I like the majority of it, whether it's the majority of the lineup, the majority of the teams, the majority of whatever the show is, yeah, I'll probably list it. And I will say, though, I do have like a floating blacklist in my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Damn it.
But it is, and it's not written down anywhere either.
Oh, it's a mental one.
Yeah, there's no way to hack it. But basically, these are people that I hate their comedy so much. They may even be very nice.
They might even be in this room.
They're not. But I hate their comedy so much. It's so upsetting to me that if they're on your show, I don't care who else is on your show. I'm just not going to tell people to go.
Wow.
Yeah. And if people want to get at me about that, then you create your own comedy news site and do it for almost a decade.
How did you decide to start it?
So the short of the long of it is, basically I've been doing stand-up, or trying to do stand-up for like a year in the LA area, specifically more around Long Beach. And in trying to find more places to perform at open mics, or any information about shows or clubs, or like, is just so hard. And there was no real good resource for that. I mean, the LA Weekly wouldn't write about it very well or very often. Same with the LA Times. And like, you know, it was just like so scattered. And yet whenever I would stumble into stuff, I'd be like, this is great. This is a great underground show. All these people aren't amateurs. They're like on TV all the time. And they're doing really interesting things. And all these mics are happening, and yet people aren't really getting the word out. What gives, you know? So after a year of kind of driving all around LA County and just like going to these places where they didn't have comedy or finding stuff that was really interesting and worth, I think, writing about, I was like, man, it'd be really great if somebody just kind of buckled down and did the work. And October 25th, 2010, I unknowingly signed my life away completely for comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think highlighting, number one, the entrepreneurial sort of awareness of that, because you're like, I have a problem. I need to fix this. Why isn't there a resource? And did you have the experience in like web design or what? Like how?
Nope.
You had none of it.
I've never been to journalism school. I've never taken a class on how to design a web page. I just sort of like, stared at a bunch of code and coupled with like picking templates and just kept it very minimalist and just like, kind of figured it out on my own, man.
What would you say to the person maybe behind you that's in a similar situation with, oh, there's not this resource or there's not this in my town? Like, it feels like if you were starting the Comedy Bureau now,
right,
how much easier would it be? Like, what do you think? I mean, is the experience now, like, is it
sure
versus the 10 years ago?
Versus 10 years ago? Well, there's a sort of precedent that I've gotten to say. I mean, and there were people before me. I don't know if you were ever around for like Chuckle Monkey or Alan Lebekin or, man, I forgot the guy's name, but I remember there was a comic who, I think he worked for TMZ, but he actually made these like 5x8 cards that had all the mic listings on them.
Oh, wow.
Which, and he would hand them to comics at mics. And, that's very nice. However, as you well know, mic schedules change all the time and stuff gets canceled. And like, you can't change that on a printed card.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there have been people who've tried, and it's just a constant updating of the information. And, thankfully I've been around long enough where people are, a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people are really good about keeping me informed about stuff not happening. And definitely it's at the point where if something got canceled, it won't float there for too long. Like I'm only one person, so I can only go to so many things. And there's only so much quality control I can imbue on a daily basis. But people are kind of good at like, oh, I went to this thing and it didn't happen. I'm like, oh, great. So I'll like reach out and see what the deal was and like get it all sorted out, rather than like previous to me, there was a lot of listings that, that's kind of what the impetus was for me trying to like be as updated as possible, is I would just be going like driving an hour and a half to some billiards hall in the South Bay. And then like, we haven't had comedy here in 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, great. And then you realize it's like 8:00 and you can't get up anywhere,
Well, no, I fully appreciated that, because I experienced the scenario of being in another city and not knowing any comics and going on a different website and it being like, God damn, this thing is hard to navigate. What is this? Like, it's almost cryptic on the times, and you call them and no one picks up because it's a bar. Like, who answers a phone at a bar? Like there's just all this bullshit.
Right.
And it was like, damn, if only the Comedy Bureau was in Philadelphia. Or,
right.
So like, do you think expanding?
I'd love to expand. Well, the thing is, I would love to expand, but I would only want to do so if I was able to pay people. Because to do like people love the work that I do. It's not it's much appreciated. Man, I gotta get better at like, shouting myself out. Whatever.
Wait, what do you mean?
Shouting myself out.
Oh, shouting out.
Yeah, like
You can look right there and do it.
Shout out
Shout out.
to Jake and the Comedy Bureau. That even felt weird to say.
No,
but
you're gonna claim it at the end of this.
I'll claim it. I'll say it confidently. I'll get it on the 20th take. No, but people they really do like what I do and how I do it, and that's and a lot of work goes into that. And I don't know what necessarily the mindset is of other people in other cities trying to like, just doing listings for mics, but sometimes they underestimate the workload of that. And, if you're just going to like put up one listing and, or like a whole week's worth of listings, right? And then you're just going to it's just going to be set in stone like that. And you're not going to like follow up or like really be on the ball whether those are happening or not, or like at least kind of establish a relationship, even like via a single email, like, hey, if you make any changes or you take a week off, like, please, like, let me know,
So all of the mics that you have listed, there's some sort of email contact going on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And if like,
I mean, that's hundreds of contacts.
Oh, it is.
I mean, you must have a crazy. What news? Do you send out newsletter like email blasts? So
I had been sending a newsletter out earlier in the year, but then getting bogged down in this. There's a new redesign for the Comedy Bureau, a Comedy Bureau 3.0 that's coming, and so kind of getting in the weeds of that. The newsletter stopped, but. Yeah, man. For instance, like Thanksgiving's coming up, right? So I will be emailing everybody who has a mic on Thursdays and be like, hey, do you think you're going to have like your open mic? Cause even after 9 years, there are some people that like respond to me like, oh yeah, we're not. Thanks for asking,
and don't think about telling you like, hey.
Yeah. And I also would like to say that if you just like think you're going to post it on Instagram or Facebook and I'm going to see it, that's not true. I appreciate the sort of the subtext that you think I'm omniscient.
Or that you see everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Omniscient and that. I
only see or know everything from your perspective because people tell me stuff. Like you have to actively tell me stuff.
So it sounds like a lot of people are contacting you, and whether it's to curate things for their mic or for their show that they want you to promote, or whether it's maybe some sort of industry contacting you about some information, where do you set your actual like, let me see how to phrase this. Like, where do you look for your own enjoyment, so to speak? Like in comedy, like where do you naturally like? Because I'm imagining you're seeing the same stuff over and over, and you're constantly just giving stuff. Like, how do you find new comedy on your own, or what is the process of like? Right. I mean, right. It just seems like you're so inundated with stuff.
Is that how it seems? Well, definitely.
I would imagine like
definitely I'm inundated with stuff for sure. And going out and watching comedy 3 to 5 hours every night, 7 nights a week, you get to see a lot. And at this point, I definitely try to see stuff that I haven't seen. But I think more important than all of that is that I really love discovery. I love the feeling of discovery. So I do like push myself a lot to go see stuff that I normally wouldn't see. And I mean, like years ago, I came up as a stand-up and would do and watch stand-up shows. But like when I was really getting into the Comedy Bureau, I'm like, it's called the Comedy Bureau. It's not called the Stand-Up Bureau or whatever. So go watch them improv, man. I bet some of it's good.
Yeah. So you force your sort of focus out.
Yeah. And lo and behold, a lot of it was great. So I tell people about that. And, generally, if I like hear of something where people that I know and like are involved, but I'm not really sure what it is, like I'll probably try to go see what it is just to see for myself, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes that'll lead to maybe somebody out of town is on the show and I get to see them and they're great. And then I'll kind of follow that rabbit hole. Also coupled with that, like, so when I go through updating calendar listings and all that, and I see a name a bunch of times that I don't know. I mean, it's obviously somebody from out of town. Maybe they're visiting, maybe they moved here. I don't know. But that sort of sticks out as like, oh, I should go check that person out.
Is there someone that comes to mind that you just saw for the first time that maybe moved or was visiting that?
Oh, like you talking about recently?
Yeah, recently, or whether it's a show or venue or something.
Well, I'll say, I mean, I saw her since like probably 2 years ago, but Sarah Squirm just moved here. Sarah Squirm is I would describe the ringleader of this sort of comedy troupe collective, Hell Trap Nightmare, that was out of Chicago, and all of them moved here. But it was like kind of a similar date. Like they were doing like a show sort of annually at the Lyric Hyperion, and people that I knew in LA that were great were on the show. And when I came across that on Lyric's calendar, I was like, what is this? I mean, I know these people are involved, but what is the rest of this? This is weird, but cool. So I went and checked it out. It was amazing. And so I kept following everything that they did. And lo and behold, they've gotten plenty of accolades and now they live here. And people can go see them. And I certainly shout them out whenever I get a chance.
Cool.
Yeah, man. And the thing is, what I noticed with a lot of people, industry people, is when they're coming up, for mailing room assistants, whatever, to being reps or executives or VPs, they'll be perhaps in the weeds, in the thick of it, and finding new talent at the beginning of their career. And then they kind of stick with them and they kind of rise together a lot of the time. Which is great, but they don't keep doing that. They just sticking with the people that they found and they know. Whereas I like also appreciating the people that I've found and how they've risen and staying with what they're doing. But I also love just being at an open mic, so just, abjectly depressed at a bunch of people bombing, and then somebody that I have no idea who the hell this is, they're from Ohio or something, and they come out of nowhere and it's out of left field. It's really funny. I'm like, oh, all right. I love that. Or even I've seen this plenty of times where I've seen somebody's first set and it was trash and I hated it so much. And it's I would never say this to anybody's face, but I'm like, man, this person should really fucking quit. This is god awful. And then 2-3 years pass by, I see a set and I'm like, I didn't entirely hate that. Huh. Okay. And then another year passes and they're actually funny. I love seeing that.
Yeah.
The growth, I just, again, it all comes back to discovery, man. And just sort of the thrill of that, I'm a restless person, man. I love just being at a bunch of places and going to a bunch of things and being around a bunch of people.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you last night at 11 or something.
Yeah. Probably at midnight.
And I was with Sham and Joe Hall before that, and I was like, hey, let's go to Fred 62. We'll probably see Jake there. Just joking. and you walk.
Right.
So it was just I don't know, it's for me, I really like the late night sort of hangouts and going to mics and then staying in after. That's one of my favorite things to do, is specifically with spending most of my day with people that, not that I can't joke around with them, but that there is a sort of deadline imposed. There's a
professional environment you have to maintain.
Yeah, and in stand up, it's literally non-existent in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's
to a certain degree.
But it's, sort of the like it's yeah, I guess maybe like me, you feel like you're at home, Like,
yes.
You could be yourself in a way where the people in it, they get it.
Yeah.
You can like talk about suicide and it's like fine, rather than people like getting really bummed out. And you're like, why do you got to talk about that?
It's Monday, man.
Yeah.
We all want to kill ourselves.
Yeah. It sucks. Life sucks. Did you think life doesn't suck? I don't know what you're taking or ignoring, but it does. Anyhow. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think there was also, I had just a follow up to the first question about how do you determine what has your attention in your typical day? Like if you can walk us through. I mean, I know I don't really want to talk too much more about the calendar stuff. But like, what is your planning, or what's the big goal? I mean, we're ending this year 2019.
Mm-hmm.
What are the projects that you're looking forward to for next year? I know the website, you're changing up the design of it.
Yeah, so there's that. And then obviously trying to grow the outreach. I mean, that's always kind of a goal. Although, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to go about that other than just trying to keep on keeping on and get word of mouth. But, I mean, what determines me having my attention throughout the day? Is really, I mean, so in general, maintaining the site with the calendar, with posts, and make sure it's just active. And I feel like the site has engaged with its user base or readers or followers or whatever enough. And then, I gotta thankfully I work from home and wherever I'm at, so I can also multitask that way. So I'll take care of fires that I have to put out or things that need to be done in the morning, and then take care of whatever I've been putting off in sort of early afternoon. And then I hate staying home. I never stay home. I always go out, and I usually never stay at my place past 4. I usually try to be out of there earlier than that. And so then I'm out doing any sort of combination of things with errands or having meetings or whatever, but I'm gone for the day. I try to front load as much work as I can get done on my computer at home, and then I'm out, and I'll, depending on where I'm going to go later, I'll pick a place that has Wi-Fi and good coffee, good environment.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the cafe etiquette and Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah?
Because I frequent a lot of coffee shops, and is there an etiquette for the activities that you can be doing in a coffee shop? And I bring this up because I've seen people in coffee shops with musical instruments.
Oh, I was just at one. I was at the Starbucks just on the same block, and there's a guy with his keyboard. No.
What's the deal? I mean, I get it. We all need Wi-Fi. I just I would not be ashamed, but just a little I have a keyboard in a Starbucks or an electric guitar,
I'm gonna make up this rule as I just figured this out. If the amount of your shit takes up so much space that no one can sit next to you, you can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the golden rule.
Yeah. I remember it was not too long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, or no, maybe, not a decade, but somewhere between 6 and 8 years, where I would see people bring in a desktop unit and a fucking monitor and a printer.
Oh Oh my God. A printer?
Yeah, because they live in their car, man. Like, they don't have a place to live, and that's what they're doing that. But it's just, you got to like willfully ignore how that looks to people. And like,
I mean, if you need to print something and that's your best.
I mean, it's ridiculous, man. You're bringing, so like, that also means that you're bringing your own like surge protector power strip, and like, you're plugging that in to an outlet, and you're gonna like, it's insane, man. So I don't know where you go to coffee shops around town. Most of the places I go to, no one does that. They don't. It's mostly people on laptops. You know, some people are reading.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has gone away. But yeah, certainly, like I said, if you're taking up more space than like, you know, in a way that no one can sit next to you, then no, you can't do that, man. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. So what other etiquette, or I mean, most people, you know, when they come to work, they're usually really quiet.
Yeah.
You know,
so talking on the phone while you're in the coffee shop.
I don't mind talking on the phone because I have really good headphones. It doesn't bother me. I would think, you know, probably also like mind your own P's and Q's in terms of like, you know, keep your eyes on your own paper. You don't need to be watching what I'm doing. Not that, again, most people don't even do that. And of course, you know, you might catch a glance of whatever somebody else is doing. But yeah, I think most people are like well behaved at a lot of the coffee shops because they're just like,
they got shit to do. They're focused.
They got shit to do. They're really focused. You know what? It does annoy me sometimes. Nah, all right. So
there we go.
Is if you are at a coffee shop where the vibe generally is people come here to have some good coffee and work, and you are a person that is without an electronic device, do not take the table next to an outlet. Like save that for people that have a computer and are there to work. You know?
Listen up, people.
Yeah. The outlets are for people
who need the power. Power to the people.
Power to the people. All right. That's catchier for sure. Power to the people.
People. If you elect me or
yeah, that's
District 13.
District 13? It might be, depending on where we are.
Well, I mean, what is your official title?
So I'm the Comedy Bureau director / creator.
How did you find the name? Were there other names running?
I spent an entire month trying to come up with a name for this.
Whoa.
Coming up with names is something I love doing, and also I take great care of, coming up with. So when I had the idea, I just was kind of like talking to people, seeing how they would be receptive to it, and also kind of keeping a short list of like potential names. And just something really struck me with the Comedy Bureau, that it's still kind of like a little fun, but also like there's an air of importance that is really communicated by just the name. So. And it's there's a ring to it that's really nice. You know, I wanted to keep it, you know, short, and like, you know, you kind of just get it by like hearing it.
Yeah, not bureau like dresser, but bureau.
Yeah, but that is the joke in the logo. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah, it's the. So
there's a bureau for the body of an eagle. Shout out to Chris Fairbanks for making that a reality.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like I wanted to take sort of like an actual like a FBI style logo and then just make it silly.
That's fun.
Yeah, and I really love it. Yeah.
So let's go back to starting stand up. Mm-hmm. What was the first set like, and where was it?
Would you not have any more coffee shop etiquette questions?
I think we covered it. I mean,
cool.
Oh no, I mean I could talk about more stuff, but that's
sure.
That's a whole nother week, you know.
Right.
I feel like people were like, "What?"
Yeah. Oh, and just they finish the whole prioritizing, and then I just go to shows.
Okay, so you're like, daily stuff is the calendar upkeep, whatever comes in your inbox, but then your priority is seeing shows and knowing what's happening in comedy.
Right. I would say it's like administrative stuff, and then kind of making afternoon rounds, and then also making evening rounds, which is going to shows, being on shows, and the like. So, and a lot of times I see my day as like 2 full business days.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Where like my morning day is like a day, and then my evening day is also a day, but they're separate.
Now we're in LA, so I'm going to ask this question. Do you practice any self-care? That's a
Right.
lot of stuff. I'm worried. You need to take care of yourself.
I probably don't do enough of it. I mean, self-care things that I do. I mean, I like a meditative thing I do. I don't meditate per se, but like I'll do origami. I like doing origami a lot.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've ever done it.
I tried. I bought a book once and it wasn't. I quickly gave it up.
Yeah, it has there's a high barrier of entry for that. But once you
It's relaxing.
Yeah, once you figure it out, if you memorize how to like fold a crane or a star or a 3-headed crane or an orchid or whatever, can be very peaceful.
Interesting.
Because it's repetitive.
Yeah.
And it's precise. So you like...
Yeah, the creasing it and...
Yeah, your mind sort of gets freed with you doing that, and you can just kind of focus on that, and everything kind of drowns out. It's very nice. Receipt paper is really good for that. Oh. So I'll take a lot of receipts that I don't need. I'll fold it into something, and sometimes I'll just leave it for strangers to find. And it's pretty nice.
Just a moment that you can take to yourself. You're not on the phone. It's flow. You're in flow, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Things I like to do. Hopefully we can get somewhere that would count as self-care for this. So I love finding new music. I go to great lengths to listen to music that I've never heard before all the time. I go watch movies in theaters quite a bit. And that's also similar, like the impetus for that is very similar with the origami is like, so you're in a darkened room with people that aren't allowed to talk, and you're supposed to just watch this thing on a giant screen. And if the movie's good, you'll be, as far as I can see, transported to another world, universe, whatever it is, and you'll feel something. Now, maybe it won't be a good feeling, but you're moved emotionally somehow, and hopefully a very artful and expressive way.
What was the last movie you saw?
Yesterday, I saw The Lighthouse.
How'd you like it?
It was a trip, man. It was super trippy. It's a movie that, in concept, seems so small. I mean, it's only 2 people in the cast, mm-hmm. and it takes place in largely one location. But that movie is so loud and insane. It's like, if the Rime of the Ancient Mariner took acid and like came to life.
Yeah, I thought it was some of the best like sound design and editing I've seen.
Yeah. And to my point about, so you feel like you're in another goddamn planet in that
totally.
Movie. And it's not a good feeling, but you feel claustrophobic the whole time.
Yeah.
And the lack of explanation of a lot of the symbolism, which you can derive a lot of. I mean, is it a meditation on the human condition? Is it a meditation on capitalism? Is it a meditation on whatever? That's for you to decide.
Yeah. I had tried to watch interviews with the director talking about it's like man's relationship with God and like the different like obsessions that we have. And I mean, he didn't say if it was or not. He just was like, here's the things that people thought about it. And
yeah, but that is the part, like art in of itself, no matter what form you kind of like take it, whether you're the creator or the person who's consuming it, it's a conversation. And so, like I get the idea that you want an answer, but the answer is up to you, man. You can take from it whatever you want it. I even joked that The Lighthouse is like a prequel to The Birds.
Yeah, those fucking birds. Fuck those birds.
Yeah, but Hitchcock never gave you a reason why all those birds get so murderous. But if we're to believe that there's an actual curse that you shouldn't have killed a seagull,
Yeah.
then yeah,
How
Robert Pattinson's Boston character, whatever. I thought that voice was actually pretty good.
I loved that. For the people that haven't seen it, you can skip ahead. But for
I don't think that's really spoiling anything.
no, they just don't know. I'm going to reference a very specific scene that I liked was after Robert Pattinson's character encountered the seagull for the first time, where like wouldn't get out of his way, and he was like kind of like flexing at it. The warning that Willem Dafoe's character get, he's like, best not be sparring with the seagull. I saw it, and like he totally dismisses that warning.
Oh yeah,
but like that one thing would have saved him like the rest of the movie by just not fucking with the seagull. Like
would it have though?
I don't know. I thought that like I think you just listen to him.
I think it was a descent into madness no matter what. Like if we were to go along the line of logic for the director about it being a meditation on man's relationship with God, then it seems like he was doomed no matter what.
Interesting, yeah.
No matter if he didn't kill the seagull or...
Yeah, if he didn't kill the seagull, Willem Dafoe's character still would have pissed him off to, make him go crazy anyways.
Yeah, it'd be, don't fuck the mermaid. And you're like, what mermaid? The mermaid you keep imagining?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I just got a flashback of that. That's a wild movie.
Yeah, so a lot of people think a good movie-going experience means you should walk out of the theater feeling great. And I very, very, very much disagree. Before that, I watched Marriage Story, Noah Baumbach's latest movie. It's like just about a messy divorce. And it was so great and so devastating. That movie, like, really, I mean, your heartstrings will be pulled like they've never been pulled before. But I like that. I mean, it's just so much of normal day-to-day nonsense, especially if you like work a 9 to 5 that's not that great or allows you to do what you want to do. You just kind of like are floating along and things are so bland, and to truly feel something out of a piece of art is like experience that should be treasured. So that's one of the things I do for self-care.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking, well, so how do I back this up? There's no transition for this, but I'll get to a point. You were recently on Nicole Byer's podcast.
Yeah. Won't you do me?
And you shared a story about sharing your writing with someone for the first time, or I don't know if it was the first time, but a project that you had written.
Oh, yeah.
And
they told me to my face that it wasn't good and I should go do something else.
But the question, the reason I bring that up is because as a creator, what sort of information do you need to have as far as like this project is a meditation on this? Like, how much of that do you really need to have? To make your work stand out, or to make, because I feel like specifically comedy, you come up with stuff. It's like, yeah, that's just a funny thing. And they're like, why is this important? Why this story? Why now? And you're like, I'm a fucking comedian. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's hard to like, kind of predict or be preemptive in terms of like the scope of whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
The kernel of any of those ideas it's just generally like, it's interesting to you. But if you were to dig a little deeper, it's very interesting to you for various reasons of like what you specifically find interesting because of your upbringing and your value system and what you want to say and how you express yourself. And even with those combination of things, that means a lot of things to other people because they don't think like you, So you don't necessarily need to have all of that figured out when you're doing something. I mean, like, again, yeah, definitely when it comes to comedy, your first kernel of like a premise for anything, a joke, a sketch, or whatever. I mean, because you think it's going to be funny. And then as you sort of refine it, you can sort of think about or ruminate on, like, what is this saying? Is it funny the way I want it to be? How are audiences receiving it? And you can contend with that a little more, but, it's still coming from hopefully a very pure place. I mean, if you try to over intellectualize what you're putting out to the world artistically, sometimes it can just be so incongruous that doesn't really get across to anybody.
Yeah. Do you think some of the greats in stand-up or any, I guess I want to stick with comedy, but do you think they had that intention behind it, or they just were someone like Dave Chappelle, they were just naturally able to like sense something and talk about that versus like having that intention beforehand?
Right. Well, I'm not going to speak on Dave's behalf.
No, I would prefer if you did.
Okay. So on behalf of Dave Chappelle,
via the Comedy Bureau.
Well,
what do you think is like, what's the responsibility of the creator and what they're doing?
Well, their responsibility is to express, as genuinely as they can what they want to do in their chosen sort of medium and discipline. With stand-up, like, they should be as much of themselves as they can be comedically in telling jokes. Now, some people mistake the idea of being themselves as being honest. I think that's like a misnomer a lot of times in comedy. The best comedy is honest comedy. The best comedy to me is genuine. And there are a lot of people that are very genuine without talking about themselves on stage.
I like that a lot. I really do. Can you go more into that distinction?
So, like, if you watch somebody like Brent Weinbach, for instance, he very, very rarely ever talks about himself on stage. He's like an extremely absurdist comedian, and a lot of what he does seems almost like a science experiment on stage. If you really hang out with him, he's really that guy. He just has this like unstoppable,
he's like testing stuff,
sense of curiosity that informs his comedy, man. And that's the genuine quality of it. Yeah, he's not talking about like his life dating or whatever, but that's not him, So, I think if your comedy is coming from that place, all of that stuff about it being a meditation or what you're trying to, like, the critical points that you're trying, like, that'll all work itself out later because that's already imbued with you already. I mean, in terms of the greats, they have their voice, their clown, their persona, whatever you want to call it, figured out. That's why they're great. And because they're operating from that point, that they have that voice figured out and it's beloved by a bunch of people, they can dive into whatever they want to dive into because people are already on board
with that persona, with that point of view.
Because you want to hear Chappelle talk about whatever because of his track record, from his groundbreaking sketch show and his stand-up, back in the day. And so, yeah, I don't think, like, it's hard for a lot of to be so conceptual. Not to say that that doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen well. There are people that go with more of a conceptual idea in terms of stand-up of what they want to do, and that also works out. Like Judah Friedlander, he did that whole special that was like crowd work, and I think it was called like "The United States is the Best Country in America" or something like that. And he just like did crowd work with people, kind of like satirically proving why America is the best. And now he's doing it again. But the thing is, he's saying why he's the best candidate to be president and why he, like, what his platforms are. again, I mean, it is kind of whatever you make of it, and your responsibility is to be, again, just genuine in your expression. Don't like second guess whatever the audience is looking for. And to that point, I will say, as soon as you put your comedy out there, you put your art out there, then it's just up for anybody to kind of enjoy or not enjoy and take away whatever they want from it. Because, it's just out in the world as a piece of thing. Like, obviously you have your intention and meaning to it to whatever degree that you wanted, but people are just, they have their whole life, their memories, their experiences that they're bringing to it, and that may hit them a different way. And that's also valid. I think people a lot of times miss that both like contradictory opinions and experiences and just the feelings on things can coexist. Something that you think is funny can also be unfunny to somebody else, and that's fine. But some people can't wrap their head around that. I mean, comedy, all art is subjective, but comedy is especially subjective. In fact, it's so subjective that it's not even up to you what you find funny. You only instinctually laugh at something.
Wow. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that's very true. Like, laugh, like, oh my, what?
So I could go on and on and on about these people that won't be named in this blacklist in my head. About how unfunny.
You're going to have to pay for the Patreon one for that one.
Oh, that should be a Patreon tier, I guess.
Yes, it should be.
Well, the thing is, I'd have to keep adding names to it.
Tells all.
For them to keep being a subscriber. So the thing is, they're working comedians, and they make a lot of, and I'm not going to stand here and say that the people that find them funny are wrong. That's who they find funny.
Yeah.
They're not wrong.
The goal is for them to be funny, and people are laughing at it. So therefore, they're doing all they really need to do.
So, I mean, maybe to some people, this will sound like a cop out. So I wouldn't think that person is funny. However, are they funny? Yeah, they're funny, but I don't think they're funny. And those can both exist at the same time.
Within that previous statement.
Yeah. If you held a gun to my head and told me, like, say you think this person is funny, I'd tell you to pull the trigger. But I would say that they are funny. I just don't think they're funny. But people, they want everybody to be on their side. They want, like, oh, but don't you think this is the funny? Like, no, it's fine that you find it funny, and that's great. And I'm glad that you do it that way. And that's part of like a big sort of directive or philosophy that I operate behind, is in like sort of writing about comedy and telling people about comedy, is, knowing that it's so subjective. I just try to spend my time and energy and resources for stuff that I think is funny or important. With the hopes being that if you like generally what I like, then maybe I'll hip you to some stuff that you might not know about. Because if you just talk about what you find unfunny, I think at this point in time anyway, you're just going to, preach to the choir or further entrench the people that disagree with you in their opinion. I think for better or for worse, comedy as an art form is still young enough where people really don't care about nuanced discussion, So like if I were to say a special was mostly good and then nitpick 10% of it, I think that might discourage people from engaging with the special, rather than like my opinion is that you should watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's not the most in-depth like critique or whatever, but I don't think we're there yet, Yeah,
it's sort of just, it kind of kills it for people a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just out here telling people this is great, and so you should go watch it.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. I'd imagine a lot of people find your website through word of mouth, and then they ultimately find out, okay, who is this guy that runs it? Do you get people asking you for advice a lot new comedians or people
Sure.
new to LA?
Sure. Yeah, I get asked where the good mics are a lot. I tell people, get that idea out of your head. The phrase good open mics is an oxymoron.
Please explain what an open mic is to someone who's never been to an open mic.
So an open mic very literally is it is a show, but it is a show where anyone is in theory allowed to sign up and perform. They exist.
There's the problem right there.
Well,
and that's then the good thing.
It's the double-edged sword of it. Some people forget about this, that with an open mic, it's open to everybody. And because it's open to everybody, there should be zero expectations. And you're therefore free to be as idiotic as you might fear you're going to be with whatever you came up with, it kind of ironically a safe space that you can just like really fuck up and not worry about it being bad because there are zero stakes. But a lot of people forget about that. So open mic,
I do. Thank you for reminding me.
yeah, just like it really should be like, I thought of this dumb thing today and it tickled me a little bit. I want to go try this on stage. If it eats shit, then it eats shit. It didn't count anyway. This is in front of a paying crowd or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you should really just explore any idea you have. I mean, if you really want to do it.
I think, it takes a good person hosting to sort of foster that environment and that experience, because a lot of people might not feel that way.
Sure. And it doesn't actually take that much to be a good host, man. You just got to not be a dick. You got to keep it moving along.
Don't do time. And oh man, why are
you get a line. If you want to like have a line.
I'm talking like 3 to 5 minutes between comments.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I was what is happening?
Nah, you can't do that.
Like, I love you, but why are you doing this?
If you keep the mic moving, if you have music in between comics, if you're generally positive, and it doesn't even have to be clever, you can just like, hey, keep it going for this person. All right, next person, give it up for them.
That's it.
Yeah, that. It doesn't have to be any more than that. Some people want this like whole big deal, and they want it to be the greatest mic ever. But just like a mic is a mic. It's like the day job part of stand up or whatever form of comedy you want to put it for.
There's a life cycle of a mic. So, okay, you have stage 1. It's a new mic. Mm-hmm. Not many people know about it. Okay, a few people come. Then all of a sudden it starts building a little bit. They're like, oh, this is kind of nice. I get up pretty quick. It's dependable. Okay, then more people start coming. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it gets to a point where there's so many people that are there, and it's like it dies. Essentially the mic dies. It's like a star that it's burning so bright, but then it just explodes because it just gets so packed with people, or different crowds start coming in. And then that like little secret mic thing that was like, this is a great space we can use now. Like there's another mic there and the venue's doing this. And it's like, it can't last.
No, it can't. That's just part of it, man. And there are some exceptions that prove the rule, but generally people that even host mics, you're not supposed to do that forever, 2-3 years max. But if you do a year, you've done your time, man. You don't need to do more than that.
Yeah, every time I've done my service to the comedy community hosting Friday mics at Echoes.
Yeah, man.
Like,
yeah. Did you ever I hosted an open mic for a year. Did you ever do that?
Which one was it?
So this place doesn't even exist anymore. It was called Senior Fish. It was in Little Tokyo.
Okay. I don't think I ever went.
It was great, man. It was back in the day of Holy Fuck, if you remember that.
Yep, I have a pin.
Very cool. So the way I ran it was we'd start at 6 and everybody got 6 minutes, and it was first come, first serve. But I reserved like 2 or 3 slots for people that wanted to come and like sign up in advance, and they'll get like a decent spot or whatever. And we would just go until like for however long the list was. And I would always do my time at the end. And like I would do an untimed set at the end, and that would be the end of the mic. So we generally go from like 6 to like 9:30, maybe 10. And we always kept the energy up with music, and we like gave away shitty prizes, because even winning a shitty prize is still winning.
So yeah, it's still the activity of winning.
And I gave like 2 book spots to like comics I wanted that I thought were really good, and they'd be like 15 minutes, and they'd like happen throughout the mic.
Okay.
And so there's that portion of it. Also, the place had a really great happy hour. There was like $2 fish tacos and like $2 beers. And people,
that sounds great.
It's great.
Oh, it's gone though.
Yeah. And because I didn't enforce a minimum, people wanted to support it, and they ended up spending more money than if I had enforced a minimum.
Totally.
Yeah. So it was really, really good. And I did that for like a year. And I got all that I needed out of it. I didn't, we got shut down under a very unfortunate situation. But yeah, I didn't feel obligated. I didn't feel the drive to do another mic after that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to top that. Sounds like a great setup.
Yeah, man. And yeah. So, anyways, yeah, comics ask me about mics or shows a lot. Like where to go. I mean, ironically, people ask me a lot of questions that would be easily answered by visiting the Comedy Bureau
website. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but they want to hear it from me.
Well, maybe what's for the Sam J Has Questions audience? Maybe let's give them a little treat. What's 2 pieces of advice that you don't typically give for people starting stand up in Los Angeles?
That I don't typically give.
That you don't typically give.
Let's see, because there's I got a whole like worked out set of bits of advice that I give. Be a little more specific.
Maybe it's like I feel like even what you said about remember it's an open mic, all expectations.
Right.
Really,
that's one of the normal ones I do.
Yeah, that's great. That's okay. So, well, then let's do the ones you do, because that's already pretty great.
Yeah, maybe
I was just hoping for like the secret stuff in the Comedy Bureau.
What's interesting? So Wayne Fetterman teaches a class.
Really?
About the stand-up class at USC. I got to give a talk. And I don't normally, I guess, get to dish out this advice, because normally people don't ask me this question. But so I think this is very fitting. So a student of his class asked me, how do you give validation at open mics? And I tried not to laugh, but I told him, you're not going to get it. It's not what they're there for, man. It's just like a place for you to kind of like not worry about bombing. I will say this, though, that if you're serious about doing stand-up and you're going out running it at open mics, you will get a sense of camaraderie. I mean, it is very much a lone wolf endeavor, but you will start seeing the same sort of people. And if you're actively working at it, and it doesn't matter if you're bad, that's fine. But if people see that you're honing your craft, you're trying to get better or trying something different, that's also like people will kind of like, even a head nod is appreciated in those early days. And so like just sticking with it, you will slowly start to realize you're part of this class that's coming up. And know that anybody who you idolize in comedy was there at one point. They were at some shitty like taco shack that had a back patio where, I mean, there's not really a place to perform, but somebody put up an amp and a mic stand and they tried it. And, you just kind of, that was the stage time you were afforded at that point in your career. So you just took it. And just know, I mean, if it's something that, again, you really, really want to do, it's just all part of this long journey,
Yeah.
And you gotta just really love it. Because if you're in it to like get famous or make a lot of money, then you're going to hate comedy because it's so discouraging at every step of the way. You know, it's, in fact, I don't know if you've had this experience, but I remember the first time somebody tried to hand me money. It was it was a small amount, but it was nice. I was suspicious of it. I'm like, is this like a scam? Like, what is it? Like, you're paying me to, like, I've been just so conditioned to not get paid for it.
To pay for it.
And to pay for it, like, I'd be suspicious. All right, is there something I'm going to get, like, you know, surprised with because you're paying? Like, no, like, this is a job and people get paid for it sometimes, you know? So, yeah, like, you truly ask yourself if you, like, want to do it. If you want to do it, then do it, man. You know? Don't worry about the validation will come from
self-validation or camaraderie. What was his response?
No, he was like, yeah, that makes sense.
He was like,
yeah,
I'm so bummed out, dude.
You know, I mean, not to sound, I guess, nihilistic or whatever, but open mics shouldn't be like a fun-loving experience, man. Like, that's part of the weeding out process that I kind of like in comedy. It's like hard. It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
If it was easy, I wouldn't want to do it. That's part of, I think, what attracts me is that it's so insanely hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the validation will come through your own work ethic, I think. And, you know, though it's not instant or, you know, it'll come and go, when you genuinely get like a laugh from something that you wrote and uttered out of your mouth, I mean, man, it's a thrill. That's where that sort of validation comes in. But just, I mean, there's a lot you got to do to do it, you know? Yeah, loading zones, yellow loading zones.
Oh, no, don't give him this one. Don't give him this one.
You know, it's insane that people don't know.
No.
You know, green zones apply the same.
Really?
Yeah.
After 6?
Same rules.
All right, just tell them. Fuck.
Oh, I'll just say that, and they can Google the rest.
That is a hot tip, everybody. Very hot tip.
Yeah, man. I know people are lazy enough to not Google that shit, and they won't fucking follow it.
I'm so afraid.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say any more? Because I have one last question for you.
Okay, that's a piece of advice I don't normally tell people.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Keep it that way.
No. Did it? I mean, have we gotten to everything you want to get to?
I had a special question that this is usually the last one I ask.
Oh, okay. I'm not telling you who those people are on the black list.
No. I've given up on that. I know who they are.
No, you don't.
So if you had a billboard on the intersection of Sunset and La Cienega, and on the billboard you can have anything. I might know what you're going to put it on there.
You mean the Comedy Central billboard?
That was your billboard, and you could put anything on there, a message, maybe like a website that you own. But I like asking that. What would you want to tell the world in that billboard? Like, it can be, you know, some people are like, it would be a movie poster of mine. It would be a message like, be nice, or, you know, those are some of the examples. But if you could have a billboard there, what would you put on it?
I mean, you know, the message that I would want to put out to the world is not really connected to the Comedy Bureau.
That's great.
Directly.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know, maybe put the comedybureau.com and a logo on there. But the message I want to put out into the world would be, know that people are trying their best and be kind to yourself. Those are two very simple ideas and concepts, but they're so hard to swallow and do.
Know that people are trying their best and be kind and be nice to yourself. Or be kind to yourself.
Because it's so easy and cool not to do those things. But
just assume that everyone else is out to fuck you over or something. Or
yeah, but they're not even thinking like that. You know, people are acting on their own behalf, but like coming from wherever they're coming from, even if you wildly disagree with it, they are really trying their best as much as they know, you know? And if you take that into account, you'll start thinking about where they're coming from. And, you know, maybe they're still wrong and you'll end up disagreeing with them, and that's fine. But just know that, like, it's not necessarily about you. You know, if you think that their being is like it's something against you, it's probably not. There's probably something else at work.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think the world having more empathy and understanding about that would probably go a long way. And having empathy for yourself and just like, you know, life is a long, hard, very complicated, layered journey. And, you know, there's only so much time and you got, and so yeah, bad stuff happens and you may fuck up, but if you just like revel in beating yourself up over something you fucked up, nothing's gonna get done, man. You know, sure, acknowledge that you feel sad, and I'm not saying that don't feel sad if you are wanting to feel sad or angry or whatever, but like, don't, you know, necessarily like just stay there. You know, like, all right, I think I'm getting a little lost in what I originally said. I mean,
no, I think you made a great point. I think that all was very well put, Jake.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah. Be kind to yourself. You know, I especially in comedy, it's like, it's very funny to be self-deprecating a lot of times, but sometimes I'll be at parties and people, they just won't turn that off. And I just want to be like, no, I like think you're great. And can you just please accept this compliment?
Yeah.
And, that's hard for some people to do, but I think it's for the better, you know?
Well, Jake Kroeger, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Sam J, for having me. Yeah.
As questions.
I had some answers.
I want to compliment you on what you've done over the last 10 years. It's affected a lot of people's lives.
Thank you.
I'm sure your life is completely different than what it was 10 years before you were made this.
I
hope it was.
With comedy. Can you imagine that? Didn't want to perform. Nothing to do with comedy. I wanted to be very serious.
Like law school.
I wanted to be Alfred Hitchcock, man. That's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I went to film school, and not to go down another tangent as you wrap this up, but I wanted to make very bankable, well-respected psychological thrillers, and none of that happened.
Yet.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, maybe I'll take a Steve Carell turn or whatever, where I only take dramatic roles.
Exactly.
Hey, and then I go act as something I also don't feel like doing. If you want to give me a role, great. I'm not going to go audition, though.
Book this man.
Sure. Yeah, if you want to, like, a well-dressed person, sure.
Yeah. Briefly, where can people find you, all your stuff? I know it's
great. So the Comedy Bureau is, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, at the Comedy Bureau, across platforms. I personally have my own Twitter, which is at Not The Supermarket, because my last name is Kroeger. It's always a fun joke.
Slow burn.
On Instagram as Not The Supermarket. On Twitter is MFJ Kroeger, and I have a Airbnb experience for the Comedy Bureau and me, where I kind of take you around the scene. So if you want to check out the real LA comedy and have the guy show you around, that'll be a thing. The Comedy Bureau is also on Patreon, and you can support everything that I do for the scene and comedy on patreon.com/the Comedy Bureau. Or if you want to do like a one-time thing, you can do Venmo, and that's just my name, Jake Kroeger. That's my handle.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all, folks. All right, guys, what did I tell you? Huh? Great episode. Thanks again, Jake Kroeger. Shout out to the Comedy Bureau. And thank you for you. Thank you for being you. This has been a journey of episodes this year, and I look forward to the next 2020. If you have some guests that you want me to talk to, or any access to people that might be, directors, writers, you think would be interesting to hear their story and advice from them, please send me a message on Instagram. My Instagram is at SamJ, the letter J, comedy. Thank you guys.